Time clock is high.
Okay, 5-second warning. Oh. Okay, it's 4:30. I'm acknowledging that we're going to I'll call the meeting to order. Acknowledge that the District of Tofino operates within the territory of the Blackfoot First Nation, Notice to attendees that the meeting is being video recorded and will be published in the District of Tofino's channel. Notice to virtual attendees to sign up for public comment and question period using the Q&A function in Zoom. To register, participants are required to enter their full name, residential address, and the agenda item they wish to speak to. Through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I'll move that pursuant to section 15 of the District of Tofino Meeting Procedure Bylaw number 1229/2016 is amended. The June 30th, 2026 regular meeting be held electronically via Zoom and live broadcast on the District of Tofino channel. That the facility provided for the public to watch and hear the meeting be located at Lakewood Sound Theatre, 380 Campbell Street, C. Seeing no objection, the motion is carried. Also through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I'll move that the June 30th, 2026 regular council agenda be adopted. Seeing no objections, that motion is carried. Consent agenda. Objections, I'll move the unanimous consent that the items 4.1 to 4.2 of the consent agenda on the regular council 30th, 2026 be approved. No objections, motion is carried. Also through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I'll move that the Recreation Advisory Committee recommends to council. Actually, sorry, maybe we'll go back. We're not going to do this through unanimous consent. I'll do this directly motion. The minutes of the Recreation Advisory Committee held May 13th, 2026. If there are no comments or questions from the chair, I'll move that the Recreation Advisory Committee recommend to council that council advocate to the province of British Columbia for improvements at Penny Lake boat launch area to improve safe public access and accessibility for swimming. Have a second. Second, just wanted to, you want to speak to this while we're in the motion?
Well, sure. I just wanted to say that council may not support this recommendation outside of the Recreation Advisory Committee's terms of references. And I do have a notice of motion, which I think is more appropriate and is in alignment with some of the goals desired by the committee.
Yeah, sure. Great. Actually, just a little bit of comment. They're I'm just going to go through the process here. The question process. We have, of course, a recommendation that the Recreation Advisory Committee recommend the content. This should be a council motion if we're going to actually make it as a council. So should we? We have to read Jake.
I may.
Tatiana.
Yeah, the recommendations appear on the agenda the way they're written in the committee minutes. So if council wants to endorse those recommendations, you can read the recommendation as it's stated and it becomes an actionable item. So that's typically how we've done it. But with the notice of motion coming up later on the agenda, to discuss that.
Sorry, yeah, just let's let me just think here. Yeah, it's just the way it's actually written is as if it's the recommend, like this, we're making the committee recreation committee recommendation. So I'm just going to backtrack a little bit. Can we just call it order a process and then go to the next one and then defer this as it's written? What's the process? Ms. Larson, do you have a comment on the governance?
Sure, yeah, if I may. Just for clarity for council, the Recreation Advisory Committee recommendation is formatted the same way the Committee of the Whole recommendations would be formatted, as well as any of the other council advisory bodies, which our district format is consistently that whichever committee it is recommends to council. Just like the last committee of the whole meeting we had, it was that the committee of the whole recommends to council. So as it stands now, it is, it's worded in a way that council, should they endorse it, would be actionable. I think if council wants to look at rewording the way committees provide recommendations to council in the future, we can definitely do that. But this one is consistent with how we've been doing it for all of our advisory committees as well as committee of the whole.
I was just thinking that we could do that the minutes of the Recreation Advisory Committee meeting held May 13th be received and adopted. I think that's what we did last time for the committee of the whole meetings, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to figure out, because I've read this recommendation now, and so now we're kind of stuck in this odd
Yeah, I think with this one, I mean, council doesn't adopt committee minutes, you receive them. So I think the motion to receive the minutes is okay. And then if council didn't want to endorse the recommendation, you could vote on it and defeat it. As you're already in the motion, if I'm understanding correctly.
No, I just think what it should mean is that council, sorry, guys, it's a bit of it. This is a recommendation that's been presented by the Recreation Advisory Committee that we received. Then later on, we can turn it into a motion of council if we want to. Maybe let's back up. Let's go to the minutes of the Recreation Advisory Committee. Since we're in the motion, I'm going to call the question, ask council to defeat it, and then we'll discuss it. And if council wants to make a motion to advocate to the province for Columbia for improvements, then we'll change the language and make it a motion. So, make sense, council? Any questions? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Oh, sorry.
All opposed? Okay, now we're procedurally correct. Sorry for a little hiccup there. So let's go back. We've got the minutes of the Recreation Advisory Committee. We can yeah. Councilor Andrew.
We're coming up on a notice of motion at the end of the meeting. And I think that's council's best path forward in supporting the notion that is expressed by the advisory committee to look into and explore aquatics at Kennedy Lake.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to move down to the recommendation. So I'll move from the chair that the minutes of the Recreation Advisory Committee meeting held May 13th, 2026 be received. And any further comments? All in favor? None opposed. Okay, and we're going to just refer the recommendation. We're not going to have to adopt it or anything like that. We've already received the minutes and their recommendation, and then we'll deal with that in those motion. Super. Mayor's reports. USS grad was last Saturday, and it was the largest graduating class in the history of the Ipula Secondary School. It was an honor to be there to represent District of Tofino. Not only that, it was an incredibly large graduating class from Taloka First Nation and Tofino itself. And so I am so proud of this council and our communities in our region for supporting the teens as they work through school. And not only that, there was over $200,000 distributed through grants to that class, which some of the administrators there suggest was the largest per capita grant that they were aware of in BC. That was wonderful to see all the kids graduating, the gymnasium full of parents and teachers and administrators and friends. Public comment on agenda items. Ms. Hefner.
Mayor Law, I will now make an open call for comments. For those in the gallery who wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there's anyone attending online via Zoom that would like to make a comment, you can do so now using the Q&A function. Before making a comment, you will need to state your name, your address, and the agenda item you're speaking to. I will now do a call. Calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times. There are no comments at this time, Mayor Law.
Super. There's no delegations. Moving on to correspondence 9.1, correspondence from B. Lawton regarding request for development of a pump track in Tofino. Council comments. Councillor Thomas.
If the space is appropriate where the old bike area used to be, it would be nice to explore this one of the options for that area. If it's gonna be incorporated in something. I think it's a great idea. I think it would be well utilized, and I think that the loss of the bike park is something.
Councillor Sloman.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Thomas. Growing up, we had a pump track in town and I thought, I really don't like to see us lose assets over time, especially in recreation. And we do have the Parks and Rec master plan in its final stages and then I think, you know, this would ultimately, I think, be falling on, although I think it's like a great idea. I'm just wondering what the assessment like have, like if this council chooses to support this, how do we have our voice heard and impact the next council to know that we were supportive of it going into the next term?
Question, Tatiana. Huh?
Yeah, I may need Mr. Rogers' support just to talk about the next steps in the recreation master plan, but from my understanding, the consultation period has ended. The plan will be finalized, brought forward to council for formal adoption. Through that, you know, planning and strategic planning and priorities are established, and that will likely happen at the beginning of the next council term through the strategic planning process.
Yeah, I mean, I could just add that wheeled sports is addressed in the draft recreation master plan, and I know that our staff are ready to look at that, and so the next council could expect to see it come back. Project sheet one day. Soon.
Yeah, and I believe there was a previous group of residents who were willing to, who were connected to the last bike park there, and they were putting their time and effort and equipment and money into doing that. So I think this letter follows that very well. I'm not sure if we can, as a council, make a notion to staff to support the letter and see it come back in the recreation plan or something like that. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I just have a question if maybe we should refer it to the rec master plan. Considered for inclusion, reference somehow. Or is it already sort of included?
I hate to break. Go ahead, Ms. Tatiana.
I think just given where the master plan is in the process, we could refer it to the committee, the rec advisory committee.
I'll make that motion and move that the correspondence be referred to the rec advisory committee for consideration in master plan.
Seconded by Councillor Sloman. The comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion's carried. Correspondence from Kay Brody regarding commercial property tax increase threatening small business sustainability. Maybe I can make a comment on that, and I can also look at staff to make a bit of comment on that as well. We understand that the letter writer has expressed a significant increase in property values, which has increased property tax. And we do understand that property values are held by BC Assessment, which is an independent organization that sets both residential, commercial, and other taxes across BC. Sometimes those valuations can fall, and in this case, there was a significant increase. And it really is, you know, it is something that we do lobby BC Assessment about. Property taxes. And every year we attempt to meet with BC Assessment at UBCM, the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, in September. And we have been, you know, we've been working with the BC Assessment on many fronts over the years. Staff, you have comments about how that works with taxation, so it's clear for everybody?
Sure, thank you, Mayor Law. Yeah, there are often anomalies on the tax roll. If there is a significant market sale, which we saw in the residential class for several years in a row. Not in recent years, then we've seen sort of spikes in particular neighborhoods in town. Similarly, in the business class, we're going to see that fluctuation happen when there's a neighboring property that sees a sale anomaly. BC Assessment does their best to take market values and non-market changes to the roll into consideration when evaluating properties. And I agree, Mayor Law, we do meet with BC Assessment on a regular basis to have those discussions. We are, furthering and strengthening our partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, and through the contract we do have an opportunity to serve the business community to ask questions about municipal process and items and reviewing property taxes and sort of pressures that the business community is facing could be an opportunity for a future discussion, either at a roundtable or through a survey. So I'll stay connected with the ED on that, but the best course of action when any property owner, and I know in this case it's not the property owner, it's the tenant, is experiencing a large fluctuation in property assessment, is to go through the property owner should go through the appeal process with BC Assessment. And that needs to happen before the end of January of every year. So notices will come out end of December, beginning of January. You have about 30 days to submit that appeal request. We've shared with Ms. Brody all of the links to the BC Assessment website, and I think at this time encouraging her to work with BC Assessment through January 2027 might be the best course of action.
Super. And maybe a comment, because I know this has come up in other communities, certainly this happened in the past in that community. One of the anomalies with the commercial assessments, the business class, is that often there has been a lag of many, many years from BC Assessment. And then they go back and they have a look and reassess, and sometimes those commercial property values go up. Some commercial property values go up significantly. And really what it is it's a catch-up often. I'm not saying that's this case, but we have seen this before. Certainly other communities just south of us have seen this as well. So we'll see, and thanks for providing information for Ms. Brody. Any other comments from council? 9.3 correspondence from Ucluelet and their Historical Society regarding a Ucluelet Japanese Canadian History Pavilion grand opening invitation. Council. Comments from council? This is an invitation. Any councillor particularly interested in going?
I wouldn't mind going. No one else is has a unique interest. Growing up in a town that had a twin city in Japan, and going to high school with lots of kids from Japan every year. I definitely appreciate the culture, and I'm happy to see you at
Excellent. And I'm going to be away on August 29th, so it'd be unable to attend, so I'd be happy to do that for council. Dr. Sawyer, represent the district. Any other comments from council?
I'll move recommendation, and if there's no other competing interests. Okay, I'll move that Councillor Sawyer be authorized to attend Ucluelet Japanese Canadian History Pavilion grand opening August 29th, 2026 in Ucluelet, BC, and be reimbursed in costs in accordance with District Penal Council remuneration policy before 2018.
Councillor Steers, any other comments? All in favor? Unopposed, motion is carried. Presentations and reports. 10.1, Build Community Strong Fund. Mr. Kirk? Yeah.
Mayor and Council, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for this one, but just have a few words. So staff intend to submit an application to supplement existing funding sources on the Campbell Street Phase 3 project. The Build Community Strong Funds 2026 intake has come up very quickly and requires projects to be shovel ready, which Campbell Street Phase 3 is. There are two streams of this fund, one being the direct delivery stream and the other being the local impact stream. So the direct delivery stream has a submission deadline of July 15th, 2026. And the program guidelines do not indicate a minimum or maximum funding amount. The local impact stream has a deadline of September 14th and will fund municipal projects up to 40% of the total project value, between 125,000 and $1 million. And there's no cap on the amount of projects that may be submitted under this funding stream. The guidelines emphasize having a Class C level budget in place for the application, which the district does have for Campbell Street Phase 3. Once staff commence further work on the library project, we do plan to submit another application under the local impact stream. This would support supplementing capital costs associated with the library project before September 14th, 2026. And staff will be in a better position to confirm the project's budget through design work and engagement with both the architect and construction manager. I do want to note that we have also submitted expressions of interest under the direct delivery stream for the recreation facility project and a future water project. At this time, there is not enough information available about the water project to proceed under this year's stream. There will be future years streams coming in 2027 as well. However, staff are planning to submit an application under the direct delivery stream for the recreation facility project by July 15th, using existing design and funding information that the district already has. There's a recommendation in council's package.
Excellent. Just a question for you, Mr. Kirkman. Now we've got, we only have the recommendation here for Campbell Street Phase 3. Is the one for the facility coming up as well, or is it only?
Through the chair, there's not a requirement to have council endorsement for the direct delivery stream.
Oh, sorry.
And there is previous support from council in the rec facility files as well.
Great. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, Councillor Steer.
Thank you through the chair. I was just wondering, I can't remember, but it's been a little while since our rec facility grant application. Was it a Class C estimate that we still have on the books for that?
Through the chair, it was a Class B estimate
Class
that
B.
staff have
That's what I
on
thought.
file for that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Councillor Steer, go ahead.
Thank you. Through recommend that I'll move that staff be authorized to submit a grant application to the Build Community Strong Fund in the amount of $1 million to support funding the Campbell Street Phase 3 project, and that the District of Tofino supports the Campbell Street Phase 3 project and commits to contribute a municipal share of eligible and ineligible costs and overages related to the project.
By Councillor Thomas, any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion carried. 10.2 annual municipal report. We have a verbal report from corporate services.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I also don't have a presentation tonight, but I did want to take a few minutes just to introduce the annual report. So as many of you know, every year municipalities across BC are required to present or prepare an annual report and then have it available for public inspection by June 30th. Tofino's report presents the strategic priorities that guide staff work throughout the year, from water security, housing, environmental protection, recreation programming, relationships with our partners, to senior government advocacy. And it ensures council's decision-making and strategic priority goals align with the community's needs and priorities. In this report, you'll find operational highlights and progress on municipal projects from throughout the year and from across the organization, the audited financial statements from 2025, and a list of permissive tax exemptions. Provincial legislation requires that council must annually consider at an open council meeting the annual report as well as submissions from the public. The annual report is available for public inspection here today, should anyone wish to see it. And at this point, you would open it up to any submissions or questions from the public. But I'm available as well if you have any questions for me.
Questions from council?
Thanks.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation.
No recommendation on this one, Mayor Law, just a formal opportunity for anyone in the public that wanted to make a comment on it. You could, same process as public comment on agenda items. You could raise your hand and make a comment, or if you're joining us via Zoom, you could use the Q&A function to just let us know you have a question or want to make a submission. Otherwise, that's it for that one.
So just to be clear, there is a recommendation.
Was there?
Yeah.
On the agenda.
Oh, that you open it up. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so just, so I'll do it from the chair. I'll move that members of the public wishing to ask questions or make submissions regarding the District of 2025 annual municipal report be permitted to address council. Second by Councillor Steer, all in favor? None opposed, motion carried. And now that's the official, yes.
Yeah, Mayor Law, it's because council is taking procedure. That passing that motion now, by passing that motion and council agrees, you can open it up to members of the public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. So we will now open it up to members of the public present and online. Make any addresses to council. Calling once, calling twice, calling thrice, and online. Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on. Move on to question period.
If I may, there's just a bit of a, the last page of your agenda is in reverse. So there is a, if you could refer to.
I was
that.
thinking it was way too short. I was like, yeah, that was the shortest meeting ever. I was like, I'm sure there was more. Okay, there we go. There we go. When I get this in front of me, I read it. Oh, that's quick. This is better. Okay, here we go. So we stapled them on. Thank you. 10.3, traffic and parking regulation fees charges. PowerPoint presentation. Simon, Mr. Kirkland.
Hello again, Mayor and Council. So this report brings forward 2 amendment bylaws for council's consideration related to the district's pay parking program. At the July 9th Committee of the Whole meeting, staff presented proposed amendments to the program and received direction to prepare updates to both the traffic and parking regulation bylaw and the fees and charges bylaw. Staff also received feedback and comments from the committee to support amendments for being brought forth to council today. Well, and some of the feedback presentation. Following the discussion, staff reached out to the Tofino Chamber of Commerce and to Tourism Tofino to identify any immediate concerns with the proposed amendments. No concerns were raised with the direction received from the committee or with the amendments that are being proposed. The proposed amendments maintain the existing downtown pay parking calendar. The majority of, most of the committee did not support extending the calendar at this time, recognizing that an earlier start could place additional pressures on downtown businesses and their staff during a period where weather and demand is can be challenging. The amendments also maintain the 2024 downtown resident permit framework, which was supported by the majority of the committee. This allows residents in the downtown area to receive their first permit at no charge and the second permit for $150, up to a maximum of 2 permits per residential housing unit. Staff reviewed increasing the second permit pass fee, but the additional revenue that would be generated by this would be immaterial. However, it would be supported by future increases post 2029 by 4% per annum across the program's board. Staff also reviewed whether amendments were required to the municipal ticket information system bylaw or the bylaw notice enforcement and dispute adjudication system bylaw. Following that review, staff confirmed that no amendments are required to either bylaw at this time, as the existing fines and offenses remain accurate and consistent with the proposed amendments. The committee also discussed future electric vehicle charging station parking spaces. This item is not included in the current amendment bylaws. Staff do recommend that EV charging infrastructure and related parking considerations be assessed through the transportation infrastructure master plan. The proposed amendments also address future rate adjustments. Beginning in 2030, pay parking rates and permit fees would automatically increase 4% annually. This provides a predictable approach to long-term revenue growth and helps support the financial sustainability of the pay parking program over time. The approach is consistent with the escalation framework that is currently used in the district's water and sewer utility bylaws, which also apply that 4% annual increase and variable utility charges in the absence of a customized review of the bylaws. If council proceeds with readings of the amendment bylaws, staff will update public facing communications before the effective date, which is January 1st, 2027. This will include regular district channels such as the website, social media, newsletter, and any other pay parking information materials. And with that, council has a recommendation in their package available for any questions and comments.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk. Put it up to council for questions. Mr. Steer.
Sure. Thank you, Simon. Just a quick question and related somewhat to revenue. I couldn't remember, when is the contract with Robbins up for renewal?
Through the chair, the contract for Robbins is up for renewal early 2027.
Thank you.
Questions, comments from council? We did discuss this quite at length with the committee of the whole, so. Would the councillor like to read the recommendation?
I note that the District of Tofino Traffic and Parking Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 1091.12 2026 be implemented first, second, and third.
Councillor Thomas, seconded. All in favor? None opposed, motion carried. Take the next one as well, Councillor Thomas.
I move that the District of Tofino Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 1271.11 2026 be introduced and read a first, second, and third time.
Seconded by Councillor Thomas, all in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Okay, moving on to 10.4, zoning amendment bylaw number 1362 2026, 740 Campbell Street. Perfect. Thank you for. Oh, wait, Councillor Sloman to exit. Go ahead, Mr. Wolf.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm going to present for first reading, amending the zoning bylaw to accommodate the development of a new multi-unit residential building in partnership with the Tofino Housing Corporation at 740 Campbell. Here's the subject property just outside the community's growth containment boundary. This reports that you received speaks to the associated zoning bylaw amendment needed to accommodate higher density on this parcel. An OCP amendment is also being considered to adjust the land use designation. to accommodate this proposal. The site is situated between district-owned water infrastructure to the north and private commercial structures to the south. Across the street, across Campbell to the west is steep slope, which is currently forested, but is currently development proposals underway for a larger residential development. On site is an access drive used to maintain and service the Bay Street Pump House just to the north, and much of the site is relatively flat, as you're aware, slopes down to the shore. Pretty spectacular views across Braddock Valley. So to summarize the property in question, which you're familiar with due to the OCP amendment also currently underway. 740 Campbell is currently zoned for residential, but low density, just outside of our containment boundary. Site's roughly 1 acre. It sits within 2 development permit areas, wildlife habitat, steep slopes. And we're looking to amend the zoning from AR1 to become a comprehensive development zone to accommodate multi-unit, multi-family residential projects. This amendment was initiated by staff to help advance the requirements of the Housing Accelerator Fund project. Initiative 3 of this project outlines a plan to work with Tofino Housing Corporation to build non-market housing throughout the district, preferably on district-owned land, and to help expedite the approval process to build housing. The goal of this initiative is to leverage our assets and increase supply of below-market housing, targeted primarily at the local workforce. The determination of this site arose from a collaborative and strategic review of the 5 district land holdings. This feasibility study was presented to council at the committee full meeting on July 29th of last year. This site ranked number 1 of all sites, and then permission to proceed was granted for this amendment on March 31st earlier this year. Here's a rendering you've seen before. This illustrates the 21 unit multi-family development that's proposed. As noted, it's increasing density beyond current zoning. Situated at the top of the lot, it responds to the cliff geometry and helps to maximize views. It's intending to use efficient modular design, stacking units, having a simple structure, which no underground parking. From the street, it appears as 2 stories. It steps down to 3 stories as the slope continues down towards the water. And then there'll be flat roofs. There's potential there for green roof, shared residential amenity space. And then down below, we have some land that we're proposing to become a public park. Familiar with this as well, as this was presented during the OCP amendment for first reading, but I'll go through it again. This will provide public beach access. It's currently designed as a launch point for non-motorized watercraft, such as kayaks, canoes, and paddleboards. This supports district vision for a connected water trail network. It would be one of the first sites to start establishing that network. It would expand community recreation and tourism opportunities on Browning Passage. It would integrate with the housing as well as provide a public waterfront amenity. And then the site also could accommodate some green infrastructure to help mitigate storm runoff from the slopes above. So some of the key considerations to consider for rezoning. The current RA1 zoning prohibits this density. Comprehensive development zone would enable some site-specific density form and use controls. Currently, the unit count is maximized at 21. Additional story would be required if more units were to be accommodated, which also would require more parking. Parking ratio is currently set at 1:1. However, the layout for parking is still being finalized to ensure that the district has adequate space for future water infrastructure expansion. The servicing and safety reviews are still required associated with this project. These things are dealing with water availability, fire flow, drainage, stormwater. The development permit areas remain in effect. We have received environmental impact assessment, which has gone into this report. No major flags, everything is manageable within that report. This site is within the local tsunami inundation zone, but outside of the distant tsunami inundation zone. And then a public hearing would be waived if this amendment, or if this amendment would be consistent with the OCP amendment that is currently in play. So just to weigh a bit of the challenges and benefits associated with this project. There's a bit of OCP inconsistency, a bit of conflict with the growth boundary. However, it does address a pretty urgent housing need. There are no water and servicing constraints. Likely the main entering this property would need to be large, as well as our challenges associated with water capacity would need to be addressed. However, it does align quite well with our housing and smart growth objectives due to its infill location, adjacency to transit, etc. The building character, some of the environmental considerations still exist. This building is larger than many along this side of Campbell. However, it does not necessarily set a precedent. There are precedents in the district for building to this scale along this corridor. And then another benefit to mention is the sustainable building design that's being proposed, as well as the public amenity. Regarding community engagement, referrals have already been initiated to Snoqualmie First Nation, Regional District, School District 70, MOTT, Ministry of Transportation and Transit, and as well as internal circulation to get comment back. Regarding public hearing, that would not be allowed, assuming alignment with the OCP, and so waivers would be, notifications of waivers would be issued in accordance with provincial regulations in our building district bylaws. So with that, we have a single recommendation in front of you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Welch. Questions from council for Mr. Welch? Any? Councilor Thomas first and Councilor Steer.
Thank you, through the chair. My question has been addressed in the report, but I'm hoping to just isolate it for members of the community that have expressed some concerns and get confirmation from you. So it is about water. There seems to be some misconceptions in the community that there's jumping the queue of everything. And I did see in the report that if a building permit is applied for, then this would enter the same queue that all the other building permits are in. And I was just hoping that you could confirm that for the concerned.
Correct. Correct. Through the chair, if at the time building permit package is issued, or yes, given to the District 2 review, is it kind of convoluted in the sense that it is a district initiated project, but we would not be jumping the queue. We would be placed in the same queue, assuming one exists at that time. Because this is a multi-unit project, we would be given the same scrutiny as other multi-unit projects, and water would be allocated as available at the discretion of the water manager for the district.
Thank you.
Councilor Steer.
Through the chair. Thank you, and that addressed one of the questions. The other was just a question on the of the 21 units in the configuration that was laid out in there, and I noted 5 3-bedroom, 3 2-bedroom, 9 1-bedroom, and 4 studio. I'm wondering at this point in time, how is that configuration decided upon, and is that flexible within the design as we learn more about a little more information around housing needs and what might be most appropriate for that type of development?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, that housing mix was largely decided by the board of the Community Housing Corporation. A lot of information fed into debate and dialogue around what the best mix might be for the community. And a lot of insight was gathered from previous affordable housing projects in the district in terms of whether or not they hit the mark. And so some of that learning and feedback went into that mix, to my knowledge. I think moving forward, because of the staging of this project, going after a building permit first, but it just being a permit, depending upon how long the time it take to gather the funding to build the project, there could be an amendment to that permit if required. Say a better mix or a different mix was determined. because of the approach taken for using sort of a provincially endorsed program potentially, as well as this being a modular type approach to architecture, it's quite flexible in terms of adjusting what fits within the determined envelope of the building, which is rather rectilinear. So it would be, I would argue, give you a short answer, it'd be quite easy to adjust if needed.
Just maybe further to comment, I was just curious because of the Headwaters projects and the configuration of units up there. And I'm sure that played a part in the conversations that went forward for particular projects. So thank you for the information.
That's right.
I just want to add to the answer to that question that it's still in a design phase finalization, and there are financial and site considerations that may impact the total mix and configuration of that mix.
Any further questions, any comments? Council, want to see again, thanks for your work on this. It's great to be part of it. THC board as well. It's a fantastic opportunity in many ways. Love seeing this go through. That, would the council like to read the recommendation before us?
I move that District of Tofino zoning amendment bylaw number 1362 for the first time.
Second by Master, all in favor? None opposed, motion's carried. Perhaps somebody could invite Councilor Sloman back in. Mr. Kirkland, 10.5, Tofino Surf Life Savings Club. Please.
So yeah, brief verbal report on this recommendation. This recommendation formalizes support for the Tofino Surf Life Saving Club through a seasonal designated parking stall at North Chesterman Beach. Staff recommend entering into an agreement with the club, which is a non-profit society, for the exclusive use of one parking stall from April 1st to October 31st each year. The recommendation also includes issuing an in-kind annual beach parking permit for the duration of the agreement. Operationally, this could be implemented immediately through the district's authorities through traffic and parking regulation bylaw and public proper use bylaw. Based on recent discussions with the club, they are working towards a longer-term plan to establish a permanent structure. So to support that planning horizon, staff have selected a 5-year term recommended a 5-year term. And this provides certainty in the near term while allowing council flexibility to revisit the arrangement as those plans evolve.
Excellent. All right.
There's a recommendation in council's package, and if there's any questions or comments, I'm available.
Super. So we're going to open up for questions for clarity from the council. Seeing none comments.
Here. Recommendation. I'll move that staff be authorized to enter in an agreement with the Tofino Surf Life Saving Club, a nonprofit society, for the exclusive use of one seasonal parking stall in the North Chesterman Beach Municipal Parking Lot for a club vehicle for the period of April 1 to October 31st each year for a term of 5 years. And that council will approve the issuance of an in-kind annual beach parking permit to the club for the duration of the agreement.
Second by Councilor Thomas. Any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion's carried. Okay, 10.6, yeah, go ahead.
I'm here to present to you this evening the proposal for a zoning amendment. It's for bylaw number 1333. Subject property we're looking at today is 350th Street. So it's a relatively large chunk of land that fits within our future homes land use designation in the village containment area, and it's subject to 3 development permit areas: wildlife habitat, riparian, as well as the deep steep slopes, DPAs. The subject property, or sorry, the proposal is only in reference to this small piece circled in red there. So we're looking at creating a new zone, which would be a comprehensive development zone referred to as the 4th Street Residential CD Zone. This would be a split zone that would accommodate a subdivision, single lot subdivision, to parcel off the existing dwelling on the lot, the only dwelling that exists on the entire 60 acres. And that is to allow the existing resident to purchase the property from the landowner. So some high level highlights is that the proposal generally aligns with a lot of our land use and development policies. And it is also, as I mentioned, within the future homes land use designation. So it does represent a proposal that's within our preferred growth area. It's outside of our map hazard areas, both the tsunami as well as coastal flooding, and supports the long-term permanent housing with the exclusion of the short-term rental and bed and breakfast uses. Good. Some considerations should the file be advanced today is that we would like to formalize the lot configuration. We have received just a preliminary site layout just based on sort of the topographical analysis that was prepared by the engineers. And so we would like to see that formalized to ensure that the zone is applicable to a very specific location. This will also inform the proposed subdivision pending should the adoption be granted. So once we receive that lot configuration, we would then look at sort of formalizing the proposed trail alignment. I sort of skipped over the second bullet there just to loop back. We've got a potential increase for density, but I should note that this proposal does not include any proposed construction, but we wanted to incorporate that opportunity should the applicant wish to redevelop in the future. So back to the trail alignment, as noted in the report, there is no additional community amenity contribution as defined by our guidelines. However, staff did evaluate this proposal based on the proposed trail alignment and its benefit to on a broader community level, given it would provide an expanded trail network, potential to connect over to the existing Tonkin Trail network, as well as provide future evacuation routing for pedestrians. Through this process, we did conduct some community engagement, which included hand delivering and mailing notice of public hearing waivers to residents and tenants within 60 meters of the subject property. There was a notice of application sign that was erected back in 2023, so it's been up for a number of years now. There were 2 editions of, the posting was placed in 2 editions of the Westerly News. And of all of those, there was no responses received, positive or negative feature. Being as this is first reading, there is a little bit of work to do ahead of us should the file be advanced. First and foremost, we want to negotiate the terms for the provision of that trail network and look more conclusively at the site layout and feasibility analysis as sort of the rough end was completed by the engineer. Again, it was just a desk exercise. We'd like to get eyes on the ground and see what is the feasibility of actually putting a trail through that area. They are subject to the steep slopes DPA, which there's little slopes throughout the property, and it kind of creates a bit of a dynamic topography to work with for trail development. So we want to make sure that the district's not burdened with high costs of trail development should we proceed. We'd also like to finalize that area and shape the proposed lot and zone so that it is clear that we're not impeding the development in any way with the provision of the zone. We want to ensure that we're not requiring any variances or amendments to the zone in advance of the subdivision should it proceed. I'd also like to finalize the terms of the development agreement, ensuring that subdivision proceeds as proposed, as well as securing the amenity, the trail amenity. And then following any sort of council direction this evening, we'd like to proceed with an additional referral just to get more of a thorough analysis completed on the proposal. So with that brief presentation, recommendation before you is that the proposal is introduced and receives first reading. I look forward to answering questions you may have.
Super, thank you. Any questions from council? Been a while since we've seen this. Councillor Steer.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, just a quick question on in terms of the trail provision, and you had noted in the report there's a couple of different methods, potentially a statutory right of way or a land dedication for a proposed trail. Could you maybe explain what the difference between those two are? I was unsure of what the difference was.
Thank you for the question through the chair. So the distinction being, we would be able to secure a statutory right of way, which is a legislative mechanism in order to secure the rights to use a piece of land. And so it would be most likely it would follow the form of that trail, or it could hypothetically, going back to one of the slides there was a dashed line that sort of followed the curve of the trail and then extended to the boundary of the lot line. So depending on sort of the nature of that statutory right of way, it could be considered what we would refer to as like a blanket statutory right of way, or it would be a very, very specific course. The parkland dedication would be something we would want to explore at the time of subdivision. And so being at the time that the subdivision plan was submitted for registration, we could have an entire piece of land dedicated. And then the district would have the prerogative of owning and using that land in alignment with our park objectives.
Thank you.
Any other questions for clarity? Comments? Any comments? I think it's totally reasonable, so I'm happy to see this up here. Thank you. If there are no other comments or questions, council would like to volunteer to read this.
I'll move recommendation that the District of Tofino zoning amendment bylaw number 1333 2023 be introduced and read at first time.
Comments? All in favor? Unopposed, motion carried. Moving on to bylaws, we have District of Tofino zoning amendment bylaw number 1359 for adoption. Any further comments or questions? Council? Seeing none, I have a volunteer from council to read the recommendation. Mr. Schulman.
I move that District of Tofino zoning amendment bylaw number 1359 2023.
Seconded by here. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Unfinished business. We have business initiated by council members. We have any committee and external appointment verbal reports. Councilor Steer.
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, I have a couple. I'll just start very quickly with the Alberta Colquitt Health Network. Actually, 17th, and it was well attended because Dan Levitt, the seniors advocate, presented there. A lot of that information we're all familiar with, and some of the focuses in this particular conversations was on long-term care facilities within our region and some of the work that we could do with that. So it was well attended. Lots of questions for Dan. He's a very informative gentleman. Wonderful there. BC Rural Health Network that was on the same day, June 17th. And that was a meeting with Minister Osborne, who the basic premises of that meeting was health equity in BC and specifically around rural and remote healthcare delivery. Once again, well attended, over 70 people in attendance there, a number of Q&A with the minister, focusing on rural and remote healthcare and the delivery of those services. And then, last but not least, Wickaninnish Community School Society meeting, and it was Caleb has resigned and is moving on to new things. He's pursuing a master's degree as well. At the same time, so in the process of hiring a new ED for Wickenden Community School Society. The funding from SD 70 has been renewed and secured, which was great news. And that's about it.
Super, thank you. Councilor Sloan.
On June 23rd, we had the tourism to, meeting, board meeting. We welcomed Oakwood Representative Giselle Martin. And we also had an update from Jess Milbury, guest services. She provided an update on her training courses and updated us on the visitors coming into the office. She also presented an update on the beach wheelchair rentals, and I wanted to bring this to council because I thought that this was maybe not all of you are aware of this, and it's a really great service that the Info Center provides to guests. You can rent a wheelchair, a beach available wheelchair that can go on the beach, and you just have to pay the deposit and it's refundable. So it's a really great service that they provide. And also we had an update on from the scholarship committee. And that was really great. We gave out the full $10,000 scholarship to Princess Daisy Mir Sarwandaya. And so she received $10,000. We also gave up two $5,000 scholarships through USS, Riley Gurnant and Olive Woodland. And then through our scholarship that is not through USS, we gave out $10,000 to Clay Chiaviti, who's going to pursue kinesiology. Yeah, and then we had updates from the board members, which was we did support a Tloquit Tribal Parks letter regarding the mine in the Tranquil Inlet. And we also had updates from board members. So park visitation is up that was an update from the national park. The Rainforest Interpretive Center is offering free evening programs, which sounds really interesting. And yeah, and then also one other item I thought was really interesting from the board members was Giselle Martin updated us on Indigenous students coming to work in the clam gardens up what we call Lemons Inlet. And yeah, I thought that was really an interesting thing going on. And so that is it.
Super, wonderful. Any other councils have any updates, committee appointments? All right, seeing none. Moving on to 13.2, notice of motion. Bowman.
Yeah, yeah, I brought this notice of motion forward because I believe that committee rate has significant opportunities for aquatics. And the provincial park area along the highway has less occurrence of usage than the national park location. And by directing staff, it provides the opportunity to explore feasibility of aquatics in the area. Now, aquatic activities are important to residents as indicated in recent surveys. I believe it is in alignment with our strategic goals. By contributing to community health, well-being, and allowing people to exercise in nature, which also has its own health benefits.
Sure. Questions for Councillor Sloman? Councillor Steer.
I don't know, Councillor Sloman, thank you for the notice of motion. I don't know if you'd be able to answer it. Maybe it might be a question for staff in terms of the motion that's presented to us to engage with our regional partners. And I'm wondering who those regional partners might be that we would engage with on that particular endeavor.
Need to make sure we include one who is our.
I think one of the key partners is going to be TFN right away, and then of course after that is BC Parks, because they hold the park, and I believe you have to apply, and so if it's going to work out that the district can use that for aquatics, then you would go through BC Parks. But I think TFN is probably key partners right away. I did go swimming there the other day. I went out to to swim, and it's a fantastic place to swim. And I noticed that there were members of TFN out there.
Yeah.
Teaching their kids how to swim. So it's great to see this here. Maybe what we can do is any other questions from council for Mr. Sloman? I was wondering if we could add on, since we have a recommendation from the Recreation Advisory Committee up here, that council advocate to the province for improvements at Kenny Lake Boat Launch. And I think the area you're talking about is not actually is it at the boat launch, or this side where I went, it was closer to, it seems more swimmable, it's closer to kilometer or two away, but you have a comment on
Well,
that?
what my kind of preliminary idea was that there's quite a stretch along there that provides great swimming access or great swimming opportunities. And I thought maybe with this notice of motion, that could be explored in the future, but not really limiting to the boat launch, because I feel like the boat launch is maybe at its capacity. I don't know. I think staffing could work out that in the future.
Yeah, I just wondered if we could, if there's a way that we could perhaps roll in, yeah, I see your hand, just a second, just asking. I wonder if there's and maybe staff, if there's a way that we can roll in the recommendation of the Recreation Advisory Committee as well. On those questions. Councilors, do you want to say anything about that now? No. I'm going to ask staff if there's, because we had that Recreation Advisory Committee recommendation that we kind of pushed off because it was comment from staff.
Staff don't have any comments. We did meet with Councillor Sloman and Aquatics at the lake seemed like the priority discussion. I think Councillor Sloman is correct. That could come up in discussion as part of exploring it. But we do want to consult with the nation on whether they're supportive of such a.
Okay, great. And then I'm gonna
So, thank you. And so, respecting Councillor Sloman's notice motion, part of why I appreciate that and I'm happy to hear it is because previously we were uncomfortable with the idea of the committee recommendation because the scope of Kennedy Lake is outside the boundaries of the district of Fino, so that puts it outside of the scope of the Recreation Committee. And so this notice of motion is actually super appropriate because it's directing us to work with our partners in that area.
That's it. Actually, go for Councillor Thomas. Back to you.
Thank you. Councillor Sawyer touched on what I want to talk about is keeping them separate. I think having us advocate to the province might be jumping a few steps. I think Councillor Sloman really responded to the scope of what we can do, and using the aquatics programming is more of an immediate need. And through that, with those conversations, we might find that our regional partners would like to advocate together to the province. I think us saying the district's going to advocate to the province might be jumping some steps. So I think it was appropriate to leave the Recreation Committee recommendation behind and then to move forward with Councillor Sloman's very appropriate.
Councillor Sloman?
Yeah, I think that's what my hesitation was the boat launch has its own purpose. And I don't feel like I'm in a position to decide where this should take place. I think like parks could do that or like somebody else.
Great. Okay, great. That's covered. Okay, any further comments, questions from council for Councillor Sloman?
Councillor can say that the motion doesn't exclude the boat launch anywhere on Kennedy Lake. So I think we need to assess different locations in terms of parking and usage and conflict and then also our regional partners specifically to look at are most appropriate to solve use of land.
Good.
To be said there too.
Sure, I think I'm satisfied that the Recreation Committee's recommendation, spirit of it will be addressed in your recommendation, and we'll see how that plays out. Excellent. Can I have a counselor, actually, Councillor Spaulding, would you like to?
Yes, I move that staff be directed to engage with our regional partners to explore the development of aquatic programming at Kennedy Lake.
Councillor Tom, second. Any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion's carried. Now I get to flip my paper. Question period, Ms. Hefner.
Thank you, Mayor Law. I will now make an open call for questions to both members of the public present in the gallery and those participating online. For those in the gallery who wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there is anyone attending online via Zoom that would like to ask a question, you can do so now using the Q&A function. Before asking a question, you will need to state your name, your address, and the agenda item you are speaking to. I will now do a call, calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times. There are no comments at this time, Mayor Law.
Okay. I'll move from the chair that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to section 91 ACFL and 92 BI of the Community Charter to discuss matters relating to 91A personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employer, agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. 91C, labor relations or other employee relations. 91F, law enforcement. If the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an enactment. 91I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and the provincial government or the federal government or both, or between the provincial government and the federal government or both, third party. Second by Councillor Thomas, all in favor? None opposed, motion is carried. We're going to take 5 minutes to move into the close.